Hi, I'm Byrne. Here at WMFE, my colleagues and I in the newsroom have worked to keep our listeners informed during the coronavirus pandemic. We've provided a daily blog with the latest news and numbers about the situation, broadcast key press conferences from leaders and lawmakers, and provided in-depth analysis of the local and national impacts of COVID-19. All that coverage comes at a cost, and today we're asking our listeners to help, if they can. To talk more about how WMFE is dealing with this situation and this struggle, we're joined by WMFE President and CEO Erika Pulley-Hayes. Erika, thank you.
Hi, Brendan.
Hey, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
So, Erika, talk about your vision for the station during the pandemic. What was your goal?
My goal very early on was to get the information to people who I knew were panicking about this crisis that was growing, not just nationally and internationally, but also in our own communities. I don't think there's been a more important local story, and I really wanted our newsroom to be available, to have the most recent information, to give people all the data that they needed. The cases were growing, and how to stay safe.
The way that we're functioning during this has drastically changed. The newsroom is remote. How do we still meet that goal of providing that information to our listeners that, as you say, is so valuable while we are kind of working in this kind of new and uncharted way of gathering and delivering news?
We turned on a dime, Brendan. We, like every other organization and media outlet, we did go to work remotely. Our newsroom began to work pretty much around the clock on shifts all through the weekend. And so that's 7 days a week of pretty intense coverage. And they've done a really wonderful job. The blog is full of information, timely updates, and newsletters that go out every morning to our email subscribers, partnerships with some of our other public media colleagues around the region, WUCF at television, as well as WUSF in Tampa. We have gone to digital with our Facebook Live series, just really reinforcing that we're across all platforms with the information and the data that people want to know.
And what about safety? What have you put in place to keep the reporters safe?
We have invested in some additional equipment, some special microphones that allow our reporters to maintain social distancing. We have given people the equipment to record from home and access the studio remotely, to enable folks to stay safe while catching the news. And other folks are also working from home remotely through using technology like Zoom and conference lines. And the work hasn't stopped. It's changed, but it has always continued.
And it's growing. There's more things that are out there. The state we're in, which is the Facebook Live that you mentioned, that's a new program we have. Our hosts are now working from home. So, Erika, despite working from home, how do you see this story playing out?
This is one of the most important stories of our time. I look back over my life and I think of three big news stories. The first was 9/11. That was a big story. It changed our lives here in America. The second was when I was in D.C., when we had the D.C. sniper, and everyone was terrified to pump gas. And then there's this story. And we just really have to continue to tell the news, be empathetic in our storytelling. Not only is it a public health crisis, it's an economic crisis, both personally and socially, given Orlando's tourism industry. And folks are impacted by this story on various levels. We have to be the storytellers to tell those stories, get the news out, and allow people an opportunity to be heard. The story will continue for months and perhaps even years, and WMFE will be here through it all.
And it's not just a story about businesses hurting, right? There are real people that are being affected by this story, right? Real community voices that need to be heard.
Absolutely. There are people that are having trouble with their unemployment benefits. Restaurant owners, they are struggling with when and how they open and without putting their employees and their patrons at risk.
But I'm thinking that so many businesses and organizations have been hit hard financially by this. We seem to be adding these costs because of what we have to do to flex to provide this information. Can you kind of give me the broad level view? How has WMFE been impacted financially during this crisis?
We've certainly seen a loss of revenue from our sponsors, our business sponsors here in the community. We've had to postpone our traditional fundraising drive that would have happened last month in April. So we are taking a hit financially, and we don't know how long this impact will last. We are, like every other business, again, looking very closely at our resources and the income and the cash that we have. But at the same time, we have a need for revenue so that we can keep this engine running.
As some of our listeners might know, WMFE is supported in part by underwriting revenue and corporate sponsorships. All of those businesses are also hurting financially. How far off of the mark are we with hitting those goals for underwriting sponsorships?
Early projections have us losing tens of thousands of dollars, maybe even $100,000 for this fiscal year.
How can WMFE continue to meet that goal and vision you have while we're still in this kind of financial crisis?
Well, we're committed. We will make a way because we have to in order to serve our community. But we are being conscious of our spending and doing what we can to bring the finances in. We are continuing to find corporate sponsors. Some of them we've lost, of course, but some have stayed with us. Some have cut their sponsorship levels. But we're just trying to do our best to allow it to all work out without sacrificing our service.
And our listeners can help in this time of need for us now, right?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Our listeners make up really the largest portion of our funding at WMFE here. We do rely heavily on corporate sponsorships, but we also rely heavily on our listeners. Mm-hmm. And they have been very supportive of us in the past, and it is my hope that they will continue to be supportive now and as we continue to contend with the coronavirus and our recovery here in Orlando.
Mm-hmm. And what's the best way for them to support during this time?
They can make a donation at WMFE.org. Also, give a call to 1-800-785-2020. If you can, give as much as you can, as soon as you can, so that we can continue this valuable service.
We've been speaking with WMFE's President and CEO, Erika Pulley-Hayes. Erika, thank you so much for being candid with us.
Thanks, Brendan.
And as Erika mentioned, we need the support of our listeners to provide the resources we need to bring our listeners and meet the goals that Erika has set out for us. And you can help by making a donation at WMFE.org or by calling 1-800-785-2020.